We appreciate you joining us here on Retiring Well. We've come up with 4 great topics today that I think are going to match up with some of the things that you may be going through right now with thinking of retirement or maybe already in retirement. The first, low risk investing with high return probability. Best of both worlds, right? What are some of those options out there, and maybe what are some of the things you should be asking or considering during that process? Then, getting into modern portfolio theory. What is it, and how does it relate to you at various stages of your life? Then, traditional versus Roth IRA. If you watched the show before, you've heard us talk about Roth IRAs, but what are some of the specific rules that are unique to each of these, and how do they affect you? And finally, what are 10 reasons you should consider a Roth IRA? There's so many great advantages to them. There's some things we got to be careful of, but maybe some of these would be vitally important to you to help you plan to retire well. All of this and so much more coming up right now here on the show.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well. Plan to retire well.
Hey, welcome to this segment on 6 low-risk investments with high returns for retirees. If you're sitting there either nearing retirement or even in retirement, there's some strategies here you might want to be aware of. As we prepare for, as we enter into retirement, it is incredibly important to make sure that you can identify where your risk is and where your risk is not. We like to decipher risk into a couple different buckets. We call it no market risk, so that means no bond market or stock market risk. And then we like to talk about where our market risk is. That would include bonds, stocks, mutual funds. So let's start with the market risk money and what's out there right now. The first one would be bonds. Typically, bonds have been a staple for the conservative portion of people's retirement accounts, and they get paid a certain amount of money for a certain amount of time. Over the last couple years here, though, bonds have taken quite a beating as inflation started to skyrocket and interest rates started to rise. There was a very much downward pricing action put on bonds. But now that we might be getting through the most of that storm, there's some bonds out there that are starting to become pretty attractive, not only from their yield perspective, but what their potential positive pricing might be going forward. What kind of bonds are you going to be looking for? Well, maybe you want to go short-term treasury bonds. Maybe you can find a high-quality corporate bond that might yield you a little bit more interest. You take on a little bit more risk just because with those higher risk corporate bonds, there's some other risk associated with them. Maybe you're in a high tax bracket or you live in a high tax state. Then you might want to introduce and look at municipal bonds. Either way, those rates have really increased as interest rates have increased, and so it's definitely something to look at. The next thing you might want to look at is go shop around at CDs, certificate of deposits. Every time that we try to say a rate on this show, they are absolutely always subject to change. But in the event of trying to get you at least a ballpark out of there into your hands here, we're always looking at CD rates from across the country with multiple different banks. And I wouldn't be surprised if you go find a CD right now, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or even a year long, that's either at or north of 5%. The trick here, though, is to make sure that you are shopping those around, versus local bank versus maybe a wider range of banks that might be from across the country. The other benefit with the CD is that they have up to the $250,000 FDIC insurance there. So there's a little bit of security that you can go with. The next thing that you may want to look at is dividend paying stocks. Maybe you have a little bit more risk appetite and you want to go get into some of these dividend paying blue chip stocks. And it's a stock that is the asset that you're holding that's paying the dividend. Over the last 63 years, those dividend paying stocks have contributed to almost 70% of the total S&P 500 return. And so these can be more mature companies that are just sharing their profits. And so we have a strategy where they've identified the 40 top dividend paying strategies, and if a company stops paying the dividend, they kick it out of the portfolio, find the next best dividend paying stock to put into it. The other thing you might want to look at if you have access to is preferred stock. The nice thing about these is you might get a little bit better yield. What happens if bankruptcy occurs in that company? Well, the order of payout goes bondholders, preferred stockholders, and then the common stockholders. So if that's an option, you might want to look into it. The other thing you might want to look into is just high yield savings account. You see these checking accounts or traditional savings accounts that are earning next to nothing, and then you go into these high yield savings account. Again, those right now are pushing 5% returns, and so definitely look into that. And the last thing is annuities. Annuities have been a staple for predictable returns, and there are some incredible fixed annuities out there right now, and then there are fixed indexed annuities where they link the growth to an index like the S&P 500. And those have really become kind of a staple for security and predictability in people's retirement account. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great day.
As you are planning for retirement, where's your journey taking you? Do you know where you are going? How are you going to get there? And what's the best route to take? Do you have a personal retirement roadmap? At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we specialize in retirement planning, and we have designed a complimentary retirement roadmap video series that can be customized based on your personal circumstance and preferences. There is no cost and no obligation. Simply go to cen-wealth.com/roadmap and provide us with some basic information that will guide you to your on-demand, customized retirement roadmap video. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me.
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
I want to talk about a term that if you were in finance school or accounting or some sort of mathematical things, you probably heard over the years, but if not, and that's okay, is modern portfolio theory. So it's a method that's taught back in finance school and even in certain levels of high school. I think they even discuss this here. And in theory, what they're talking about is it's examining the level of potential return based on a certain category of risk. So something can't be viewed just as a standalone item where it's starting to hone in and put things in certain risk categories and the potential for their return after that. So let me summarize that. It's the idea of I want to be the most efficient possible with my investing based on the level of risk I am. Let's say I had an investment and it had the chance to lose 20%, but I have the possibility of making 6%. Okay? What if I had a similar investment, I had the chance of losing 30%, but still only had the chance of making 6%? Well, it's not as efficient, right, as that original investment. I want to have the least amount of downside exposure, but I want to have the largest possible upside. We all want that, right? We'd love to have no potential downside, but a really high upside. But unfortunately, those options are very limited to far from few and far between, right? But again, so when we look at modern portfolio theory, why is this important to you? You may be asking, or how would this be important to you? Well, for a retiree, when you start looking at having distributions and money coming out of your accounts, you likely don't want to experience large losses during that time of distributions. Different from when you're working, as you're accumulating stuff and you're constantly adding money into your portfolio, when you have those dips in the market and you're adding contributions, you're in theory buying lower, right? So you're kind of dollar cost averaging, they call it, or again, still accumulating money. Now we're in this distribution phase, and if we start to sell so we can get money and then market is down, well, guess what? We're selling more shares to get the same amount of money, so it's having now the reverse effect. So with modern portfolio theory, as a retired investor, as somebody that wants to produce income, we want to have the most efficient portfolio as possible with the least amount of risk. So when we start examining a whole portfolio, again, looking at modern portfolio theory, we're not just looking at any one single investment, we're looking at how they're working together and how they're trying to make it efficient. You hear me keep using this word efficient over and over. Again, that's kind of the basis behind this theory is. And so as we examine and as we put together portfolios, one, it has to meet your comfort zone. It has to meet what your field where you can handle from a downside perspective. Everybody is different and that is okay, but it's important that it matches up with you. Then, does it match up with what your goals are? What are you trying to have with this money? Where do you want it to go? How long do you want it to last? What do you want it to do? And then when we put these strategies into place, how is this strategy then going to overlay all of this when we look at income, investments, taxes, estate, legacy, insurance, all this other stuff? How does it overlay with that? Again, so it's the most efficient as possible, not even just from an investment perspective, but with all these other things that are out there. So as you start to look at your portfolio, and maybe you have over the years, there's going to be some good years and some bad years in there. The good years, we all love, right? That's great. We all want to make money, but those bad years, that's where you want to focus in on this theory and start to look at this. Do you have the most efficient portfolio that you possibly can have? Are you taking the least amount of downside with a given set of investments to have the highest probability of success? How do we figure that out? Again, through analytics and starting to look at this and get behind the scenes of what you have and what is it doing for you? Why is it in there? What is it costing you? All these various things that are vital to know. And if you don't know and you're unsure, boy, now is a great time to start to figure that out before it turns down again or before there's a bigger issue out there for you. So we'd love to have a conversation with you, no obligation, no cost visit at any of our office here across Northern Michigan, Traverse City, Gaylor, Petoskey, and Cadillac. And we appreciate you tuning in and watch us on YouTube. At any time, you can go on our YouTube channel, click on subscribe, and then that way you get notified as we post new videos, not just with the television here, but we also do these little short clips on specific topics that you may find interesting at your convenience and watch them at any time.
There's a retirement crisis because many people aren't well informed and well prepared. Information and proper planning are key for the success for your retirement. You need to be cognitive of your particular situation and how you can best plan to retire well. Our team has prepared several videos that are based on whether you're single, married, retired, still working, and there's no cost, no obligation to access these customized videos. You can visit cen-wealth.com to access the videos. Our goal is to inform and to educate. Our hope is to provide you with tools that help you plan to retire well. We hope you will find the content valuable and pose some questions you may not have considered, including income. There's a variety of ways to structure an income plan, but it depends on your goals. Investments, be aware of the risk. You need to consider your capacity for risk attitude, and need to take risk. Taxes. You can't solely rely on your tax preparer. Retirement tax planning is a whole other animal. Estate. You don't need to be afraid of preparing for the inevitable. Insurance. We believe health insurance is more important to your retirement plan than ever before. If you have additional questions or are interested in a personal meeting, the initial consultation is complimentary. We can assure you we'll never pressure anyone to become a client. We encourage you to visit cen-wealth.com to access these videos. Our hope is that you take advantage of this opportunity to further your knowledge and improve your confidence in your existing retirement plan, or help you along that path. Again, we encourage you to go out there, take advantage of this opportunity, as our goal is to help you plan to retire well.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
As we all know full well, life is just full of rules, right? And retirement planning, that's no exception. A huge part of retirement planning is navigating all those various rules associated with your retirement accounts. So today I want to talk about specifically traditional IRA and Roth IRA rules, to include contribution limits, deduction rules, and those pesky IRA distribution rules later down the road. Okay, so let's start with determining how much you can actually stash away in those IRA accounts on an annual basis. So for 2023, the contribution limit is $6,500. Now, there's an exception to that rule though. If you are age 50 or older, you get a catch-up contribution amount, and that amounts to $1,000 extra that you can stash away. So if you're age 50 or older, you don't do $6,500, you can do up to $7,500. Now, one thing you also have to remember is that you have to have earned income in order to be able to contribute to the IRA accounts. So what does that mean? Well, you know, I have a lot of clients where they retire, they're doing some sort of part-time income or part-time work to generate some income, and they still want to stash away a little bit of money in that IRA account. So if, for example, you're only making $5,000 a summer working at the golf course part-time, and you'd like to stash away $7,500 in that IRA account, well, you don't have enough earned income to stash away that full $7,500. So you can only put away that $5,000 that you've earned, okay? Now there is an exception to that rule as well. So let's say, for an example, you're a married couple and one spouse is working while the other is not. Maybe they're a homemaker, they're staying at home with the kids, and you still want to be able to have an IRA for them even though they don't have that earned income. You can do that. So you can open up what's called a spousal IRA for that homemaker that doesn't have the earned income, and still contribute up to whatever the limits are for that person. So whether it's $6,500 or if they're over age 50, up to $7,500. So those are the contribution rules for the IRA. But what about the deduction rules, right? That's a huge benefit of being able to put money away into the IRAs to get that tax deduction. The big thing to remember there is if you do not have access to any kind of company retirement plan, whether that's a 401k or 403b for an example, if you don't have access to one of those types of plans with a company, then there's no income limits, okay? So you can contribute up to your max without having to worry about making too much income and being disqualified from being able to contribute to that IRA. Now, if you do have access to a company 401k plan or a 403b plan, there are some specific rules as far as how much you can earn and still get that IRA deduction. So you want to make sure that you're meeting with your financial advisor or your accountant to determine where you're exactly at with that, to make sure that you can capitalize on that full deduction. There's certain phase-out limitations and, of course, income limitations that would apply. All right, now let's talk about withdrawals, taking money from the IRA. Yes, there's rules putting money into it, and there's rules taking money out from it. Okay, so the magical age for IRA distribution is age 59 and a half. So if you take money out from the IRA before that age of 59 and a half, you could be subject to penalties. Now, there are some exceptions to that, like hardship exceptions and so forth, so you want to make sure you're meeting with your advisor on that as well. But if you wait until after the age of 59 and a half, you don't have to worry about paying that 10% penalty. But remember, when you're taking money out of those pre-tax accounts like the IRA, that would be taxable. So don't forget, you got a partner in that IRA in Uncle Sam. And then finally, the Roth accounts. So Roth accounts, operate very similar, except they're after-tax accounts. They do have some contribution limitations there as well. So if you make over $228,000 a year, you cannot put money into a Roth account. So that's one thing that you want to make sure you're well aware of. All right, well, I hope you learned something today. Lots of different rules out there to pay attention to. It's a big part of retirement planning, making sure you're understanding all the different rules that are associated with those investment accounts. But it doesn't stop there. There's a whole bunch of rules with estate planning, health insurance planning, income planning, and so forth. So make sure you're meeting with an advisor to go over all of it for you to plan to retire well.
If you like watching Retiring Well, make sure to go to youtube.com/retiringwell and click the subscribe button to never miss any of our TV shows and other informative videos. Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put in effort to provide and take care of your family, to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well. As you are planning for retirement, where's your journey taking you? Do you know where you are going? How are you going to get there? And what's the best route to take? Do you have a personal retirement roadmap? At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we specialize in retirement planning, and we have designed a complimentary retirement roadmap video series that can be customized based on your personal circumstance and preferences. There is no cost and no obligation. Simply go to cen-wealth.com/roadmap and provide us with some basic information that will guide you to your on-demand, customized retirement roadmap video. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
I'd like to share with you today here 10 reasons to potentially use a Roth IRA. So often financial advisors stress diversification, and so often you may think of, well, that's stocks or bonds, different mutual funds, whatever that might look like. But what about tax diversification? That can be so valuable when you're building a plan, and especially once you get into retirement and specifically looking at that long-term retirement plan. Having some tax diversification can really be valuable for you. So I'm going to, again, walk you through these 10 different reasons why you may want to consider utilizing a Roth IRA. So the first is consider prepaying your retirement tax bill. So if you have more traditional types of 401k IRA amounts, when you withdraw that money, you're going to pay taxes. But if you're making after-tax contributions into this Roth IRA, then there's tax-free growth and eventually tax-free withdrawals. So, you know, if you're balancing between, well, traditional versus Roth, that's something you may want to consider. The second is, what about tax-free, again, tax-free withdrawals in retirement? So as you're looking ahead and trying to map out what that plan looks like, having access to some money that you're not going to be paying tax on can be so valuable. Like, take into consideration that what if you need a purchase a vehicle and you want to pay cash for that, and if all you have is access to traditional 401k or IRA money, all of that money is going to be taxable, whereas a Roth IRA, that would all be tax-free, so it's not going to show up on your tax return. Or maybe if that would help you avoid going into a higher tax bracket by having those tax-free funds. The third item is tax-free investment growth. So let's imagine for a minute that you set aside over the years $100,000 into some type of retirement plan. That grew to $300,000, and now here you are in retirement and you decide, wait, I want to buy a home with this $300,000. Well, guess what? If that's in a traditional 401k IRA type of an account, all of that $300,000 is going to be taxable to you. So that $300,000 that you see on the statement may not actually be $300,000 if you said, I want that money. Whereas within a Roth IRA, all of that's tax-free. So again, you could access all of those funds without tax implications. Number four, there's more flexibility in retirement. You don't have the required minimum distributions that you would have as you would with a traditional IRA. Number five, easier access to your money before retirement. So if you've held your Roth IRA for at least 5 years, then you can access the contributions that you put into the Roth IRA prior to age 59 and a half without incurring a penalty. So a lot of times there's a 10% early withdrawal penalty if you take money out of retirement accounts. But again, your contributions could be accessed. Number six, leaving tax-free money to your heirs. That might be something that's important to you. Number seven, maximize tax-sheltered assets. So traditional 401k or IRA, and again, in this example, let's say you have $600,000 that shows up on your statement. Again, that's not all your money. So there's going to be tax implications when you go to withdraw it. Number eight, later contribution deadline. So with a 401k, you're typically required to make those contributions during the calendar year while you're working and contributing. With a Roth IRA, you have until the tax filing deadline to make a prior year contribution. In 2023, that was, or for 2023, that's $6,500. If you're over age 50, that's $7,500. Number nine, there's a tax savers credit. So in 2023, if you're single and earning between $21,750 to $36,500, or if you're married earning between $43,500 and $73,000, there's a tax savers credit. And lastly, Roth IRA conversions. We could talk a whole lot longer in regards to this, but there's no age limitation on Roth conversions, and an area that I know here at Centennial Wealth Advisory we like to walk through with clients on an annual basis and see if it's a fit for them. So if you have questions about any of this and if a Roth IRA might be a good fit for you, please give us a call.